you Google Nan Wigmore images, there's another very beautiful photo. I'm with the shirt too, so you could look at or use those photos. A lot of this stuff about me you don't need from me. It's already...
This photo here, Nan, who took that photo? They're off the internet? Is that where they come from?
I believe so. My sister's in Argentina, but here are some you can... Now those two, I think, are right here on this one page.
Okay.
I'll just hand this to you.
Okay. Yeah, in fact, I've seen this one on the internet right here. The one with the lady.
One with my mouth open I had not seen before today, and I thought it was more telling of my
oh, I haven't seen
experience
this
there. I was asking, I was saying to the police, aren't you listening to the occupiers? Aren't you hearing them?
What's happening in this one now?
This might behind you.
Man.
My doctor, I'm going to get a hair out of my eye.
Okay.
My doctor, my neurologist, saw me. I had a seizure the day after I got home. And
from the Chicago?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And he looked at it and he said he wanted to photograph these. The contrast was so marked. There's the one with me smiling, and two, I don't know if you have that there. Yeah.
Yeah.
The contrast between these, now it's not the same picture. In Chicago I had a different sign, but and they took that away, so I have no sign here, and I have no shirt on because they've also put me in the hospital scrubs here. And
the difference you can see in the photos before and after, right?
That's what he wanted to. He wanted to see what it does to a person when they've been. See, I wasn't tortured, except I didn't have a chance to sleep. The police would not talk to me. They wouldn't help the stranger in Chicago. And here's the one with the horses that she talks, or one of the ones, not a very good photo.
Is that you in this photo too?
That's the back of me with
Yeah.
the same shirt on. You just can't see it as well.
How come you're on the ground there, Nan?
That's the point. It said, oh.
Were you kneeling down there yourself?
It tells you in something.
Oh, in one of these articles here?
No, I'm not kneeling. I'm just trying to rest, apparently.
Uh-huh.
And I don't have memory of this time.
Mm.
My memory was wiped out with that.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to be careful what I say. And that's one reason to read, to listen to Kebu's. I have, so he wanted to get a picture of the difference. I have my mouth open here, and this is the one where I'm, here I'm kind of looking like, cut it out.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at the our guys, not the police here so much, although we were surrounded. But in this one, I'm kind of, to both, I'm saying, aren't you listening? Aren't you listening to the police, for crying out loud? I mean, to the
protesters message.
No, to the Veterans for Peace who had, they spoke. The crowd was hushed. There wasn't a sound, and thousands of people silenced by the message of peace that those Veterans for Peace gave. So.
And that's where you were looking at
around here.
You were looking at the police saying, aren't you hearing their message, right?
That's what I was saying in this one.
Mm-hmm.
Now, aren't you listening? I mean, peace. That's what it's all about. And in this one, I'm saying something like, peace is what it's all about. Very much is what I was saying. The other thing I was saying is, we're trying. I mean, not trying. We're disciplined. You are disciplined. We are disciplined. We're all learning together. And then they went and we're not disciplined.
Well, they proved that they weren't disciplined, right?
But then, we weren't perfect. None of us are perfect, and that's how I look at it. I think we were just funny, a lot of us.
I can actually read you the first question and the way I have it written down. You have a long history of activism and are still going strong today with Occupy Portland and your recent attendance at the Chicago NATO protest. What has been your motivation through the years and the basis of your continued commitment?
I disagree with the truth of that. If we're going to talk, I just soon make it as honest as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact is, I testified and protested in the 1970s, the late 1970s, against nuclear power because nuclear war, I believed, was the result. And that I felt they talked about boiling a baby bottle in bath water. And so nuclear power isn't the answer. And today, it's very, very dangerous what's going on. We have to study. Be the Change is one book. This is by Thomas Lindsay with Annette and Nick with Campbell. And it's one of the most influential books for me.
Yeah, so you've been involved with politics or trying to speak for change since even the nuclear times when it first introduced in the 70s.
When I first became aware, and it wasn't just nuclear, I was reading the magazine Nation, and that still exists. I'm not sure if it's a magazine or it was a flyer at the time. I can't remember, but it was a very honest explanation of what was happening in Vietnam. And I was appalled that our helicopters were unsafe for the people we were sending to drop napalm and other dangerous materials on the people there, who were oftentimes innocent. And if you check Brian Wilson's website, he explains a lot of what he saw and others saw, as well as the Veterans for Peace did and do. So I saw in the Nation that we were also sending helicopters up that weren't safe. They were falling out of the sky. And I don't believe that we care enough about what we're doing. I think what I saw then and see now is that we are so busy trying to believe we're a country, right or wrong, trying to take care of our families and survive, and we forget that we're responsible for a lot more than what's going on in our own neighborhood with our barbecue and our baseball game.
Were you very political or active or involved with like the anti-war movement up at all, or did you kind of come back out with the Occupy when it surfaced, or had you been sort of politically activated before that?
I was politically activated, but I was doing fundraising, and where I could, I felt powerless.
For the anti-war movement, sort of fundraising.
Yeah, there was very little I felt I could do.
Yeah, the powerless part, right?
Yeah, I don't feel particularly eloquent or well read. I felt pretty powerless, and in Occupy I see a chance for us. Up till now, I haven't seen that there was the wisdom that we needed, the education we needed. I feel like we didn't know what we were doing, and I think we still don't. But the opportunities are there now.
Yeah.
In so many ways. And a lot of it is people who've grown up with a little more education, which is not happening for our children today. We're losing a lot. You can ask about the rose at some point, and I'll try to figure out an answer.
Okay.
That would be neat too, because I think you've been very opinionated about you don't want a fist as a symbol, so I think you should talk about
Yeah.
that.
Thank you, Kathleen. It represents the war, and that's the last thing we want to do. And anger, we all have, I think, no, I speak for myself. I feel anger, but it's not at someone. I feel angry because of what we have allowed and what we continue to allow, and I consider myself as responsible as any other person. I don't know how to fix what we've done, except to take one step at a time today. And that means walk with my little sign saying, grateful great-grandmas. Support Occupy because I see Occupy as the hope. It's got nothing to do with little camps for me. It has to do with caring about people who are homeless, and it has to do with allowing peaceful protest. So I've got a rose in the fist that I wear because that to me means peace. And that's the primary thing. That peace is what I felt had to be said when we were marching in Chicago and other times. And in Chicago, I called out to the police and to the protesters. Peace is what it's all about. Didn't you hear the Veterans for Peace speaking? When they gave back their medals, that's what they talked about. I'm sorry to our country. I'm sorry to Afghanistan and, sorry, the other country has slipped away. Iraq. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the other wars too. There were veterans of all the wars.
So it's from a peaceful position that you're speaking for.
Yeah, so I say to us all, it's about peace. It's got nothing to do with how angry I am and how bad you are. And if we're going to have peace, we have to be able to talk to one another. Therefore, I wear this bracelet that I received from a veteran, and it's on a card that the veteran sent to me, who saw me in Chicago wearing the bracelet and asked about it, and I was glad to be able to say, this bracelet was given to me after a long conversation with a vet on the route to Chicago who happened to be at the rest stop where we were. And at that time, he was, by the way, interrupting, his whole left leg was Agent Orange. He had shorts on, and it was all pocked and horribly damaged in orange. And Agent Orange had covered him. That man talked for a long time, my country, right or wrong. He felt that we're the best country in the world, and that we've done a lot of great things, and that we can listen to one another, and we can learn from one another. And in that we agreed so completely, but the rest of the time we were no loggerheads, really. We just disagreed. And at the end of the time together, he reached onto his wrist and gave me this bracelet, and he put it on my wrist, and the bracelet says, Staff Sergeant James Ray, prisoner of war, 18th of March, 1968. And this man died for his country, and this man's parents gave the bracelet to the man I've met. And it means a lot to me. I won't be taking this off if I can help it.
I'm going to read another question. Yeah.
Two.
It's number 2. It says, your experience in Chicago is in part of a harrowing account of cold and brutal action by authorities, from police to hospital personnel. What stands out in your mind about the protest overall? Because it sounds to me like
the wording.
Yeah, the wording there, she points out that you did have a brutal and a cold, harrowing account. But overall, does that stick out, or does the protest itself and the message?
I changed the wording of the question because the question sets this up.
Okay, okay.
Like some articles, the one in front of you there printed, many of the news media reporters have a tendency, perhaps because of public readership, I don't know why, but we make big drama out of life. Life. Yes, people were brutal in Chicago. Yes, they're sometimes brutal here. But everyone has the potential to behave badly. And we weren't perfect. And I didn't like that there was brutal behavior. I didn't like looking at the smashed wrist. And I'm not making light of that. That's very serious, very wrong, and there's no excuse for it. At the same time, if I draw your emotions out with my method of speaking to you, what's the point? You've got to have your own emotions. You know, you don't need my work to get you there. You've got your own tools to find your feelings. So my belief is that we have to listen to the news, unfortunately, with an unbiased, that's not the way I want to say that. We have to listen to the news, how it comes to us, and sort, because that's the way it's presented to us. The truth would be great. So I'm trying to find a way to the truth with what we speak about. Therefore, I like the questions to come. I got to do a gesture because I don't know what the words would be.
How about reframing the question to what sticks out in your mind most about the Chicago experience? Or, in your opinion, how was the Chicago protest?
I was so proud of the occupiers' approach. We came on the bus for a long distance. It wasn't easy, hard to sleep. And getting to know other people that were different backgrounds, ethnic differences, but we made it to Chicago, and we were amiable toward one another. As a matter of fact, we became closer friends, as it would be logical to me. In Chicago, we were so disciplined and so peace-oriented, and I saw nothing that I would be disappointed in our behavior, right across the board. I was so impressed. And a lot of people. And I can't say that was true for some of the police. I saw it in their faces and their eyes more, but I saw a lot of peaceful police. I saw policemen with thumbs up, nods, and a twinkle in their eye that said, "We see, we're on the same plane." A lot of occupiers say things like, "You're a 99% too." There was a lot of gesturing. We're all in this together. And that's the way Occupy appears to me. More and more we see us as a nation of a united nation, even though we're not acting that way. Oftentimes in our judicial system, our corporations, but the people is a different matter. The people on the buses I ride every day, a lot of questions. What is this Occupy all about? And again, I want to say, tell me, what do you think? What is it that troubles you? What would you like to see changed? Because most of us have a whole lot of things. That's one reason this book, Be the Change, was helpful to me. He explains, Lindsay does, that when a person has one issue, like coal problems in the town, black lung disease, the water problems, it's easier for the town to unite and protest and deal with the legal system, deal with the power of the coal industry. In a larger city, we could so many things, what's going on right now, where the people are trying to interfere with our water at Bull Run, the finest water, and at Hanford nuclear waste site. We need to know, we need to study. It's very, very important. Our very lives are at stake, and certainly our children and grandchildren. Not just our lives now, but the world as we know it will not be the same. Won't anyway. But we can make it much, much better by bicycle riding, a lot of occupiers say, and that may sound funny. I say it with a smile. But the truth is, it's making a difference. And I want to just insert quickly that in sometime, I believe it was in the 70s, the city of Portland, and I think it was the state of Oregon, made the decision to lower the gas, you have to tell me the word, gas per hour.
Per mile or
per mile.
Price? Or was it a tax?
It was moved from 70 to 60 miles an hour.
Oh, the speed limit.
Speed limit.
The speed limit.
And so we changed that. We went back. Now I believe that trucks need to go faster if they want to make money for the truck drivers. There's a lot more involved, but it certainly was a move in the wrong direction. And that's just one little thing. I just remember that one because it felt safer to be driving at that speed. And it was.
At a slower speed.
Much safer.
Yeah.
That just used less gas. So I don't need to go into a lot of the details. It's the fact that we can look at our society piece by piece. We don't have to do just oil, coal. We can think in terms of each thing, the poison that we put on our plants in our garden. On my cherry tree, we have no more robins because we poisoned the soil, the fruit. There was a great loss of frogs. Now that may sound like a little thing, the robins and the frogs. It changes everything. It's not a little thing. And if we read, if we think, we're going to understand better why and what we can do.
I liked your point you made about on the bus. You told somebody when they asked you, you asked them what they thought.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the point of this Occupy. People like you, Nan, have a voice. And the lady on the bus has a voice. And we're listening to these voices. I think Occupy is bringing that out, to listen to what the people have to say. And there's some smart people out there.
Dialogue.
Yeah.
Talk to one another and listen. Yeah. I heard a conversation here just a couple of nights ago with my son, who's from a state across the country, who has a strong affiliation with a political party that is not one that sometimes an occupier, such as myself, you might say, why? What's the point? But he had his reasons. And he was talking to a person who knows a lot, not just about Occupy, but about what's going on in the world and why it's such a dangerous thing for us to succumb to a brutal police behavior, to succumb to corporate injustice, and to allow our less fortunate to suffer. What happened? We didn't used to be like that, the old-timers would say. Used to be things were better, but I always remember Socrates said the same thing about the youth of his time. So we aren't educated as we'd like to be, but we can be. And if we're going to make changes, we have to educate ourselves and act as we see best.
We almost led right into the next question, which is, share your impression of the Occupy movement, where it's been so far, and the path you see ahead. We're kind of talking about some of those Occupy things right now. So in general, do you see the future of the Occupy movement at this point?
Future of the Occupy movement, in my opinion, is it's going strong, and it's going to continue. It's going to change the world. I'm not the only one that feels that way. From time to time, I hear people say, burnout. I hear people concerned that we will become burnt out. From the beginning, I heard people say they won't last the winter. And the people occupying the parks were put out of the parks. But I happen to disagree. I listen very carefully to everyone who's talking, and I hear questions. With my son, I heard him ask questions. And he's an average person. I'm an average person. We just have to keep listening to each other and discover that there's a lot of work to do and that we're capable of doing it. You know that, I have to fill this in because I'm forgetting his name. The Dalai Lama came to Portland and said very simply, you Americans have the best in the world, the most best opportunities. You just have to remember to have the confidence and use your opportunities. And confidence all my life has been a struggle. I didn't think I could speak and have it be worth anything, but in Occupy I'm learning we all have a voice. And the other programs that I've been in, my 12-step work made a big difference in my life. Working with for early years in anti-nuclear things, raising my children. So each person I've met has educated me and helped me to get a little step further toward whatever it is I'm moving toward, making a better world, I hope. Class cross-promoting. We need to cross-promote Occupy. And you can, Kebu did this extensive interview with me the same night I got home, and I was very much alive and aware that night. I would just like others to be able to hear me tell the story, my story, because it's what I experienced, and it's what I can do now. It's what my years of living taught me, that I can speak up.
In part of speaking up, the last question on here says, what do you like to...
Got my paper in front of me this time.
What message would you like to give here to our fellow 99ers around the globe? And that's your message. We've been kind of talking about some of those things already, just to speak up and to, you suggest to read the book, to get some empowerment there.
Impressing of Occupy where it needs to be going. I don't know if I answered that. Anyway, your last question is, what message would I like to give the 99% around the world? And for God's sake, or for your deepest belief to make a better world, please see us as one. We are not bad guys, good guys. We got some bad behavior and some fine behavior. A lot of noble behavior and horrible behavior, but that doesn't mean those are my enemies, because we're playing right into the world we've known in the past when we think enemy, think bad. It's not the way it is. It's simply not.
Good point. I seen you on the street one time at the Chase protest in November here in Portland, and the police were lined up face to face with you darn near. And I kind of stood there with my camera going, look at these bad police, and you said, we're all part of the 99%. And you kind of brought back that perspective. I was trying to point out, look at you bad, bad cops against this little old lady, and you said, we're all part of it. All because Wall Street wants to be jerks and rip everybody off, and now we got this problem. We're all in this together. Not with Wall Street, though. Yeah. And that really spoke to me later as I watched my video. We're all together here.
Yes, it's true. And my son said, and I affiliate with another political party, a political party that thinks Occupy is way off track. And as he said that, I thought, this is wonderful that he's got a perspective of his own and that he can affiliate. He can identify with others, and it's fine in this country. It's a wonderful thing. And it's being able to do that gives us a lot of hope, and that's one of the reasons why we also get frightened when we think the horses are coming. The police have on their riot gear, and we can sing out, I don't see no riot here, we don't need riot gear. And we need to really trust that fear is a tool. It's been used through the centuries. Fear is how wars are fought and lost and won. It's just a tool. We have to risk, and we have to trust. We have to trust that we're going to be there for one another. And I know I walked the streets of New York wondering about that. And I got very sad after the police brutality in Chicago when I saw the beatings. I saw people hurt. I felt very sad. And then when I was out in the street and the police would not speak to me, I think they just wouldn't speak to occupiers, but they were obviously instructed to speak to no one who was as involved as I was. And because they wouldn't speak to me, my small town background tells me that's ostracism. I must not be worth anything. I must be worse than the worst, because people I've respected, people who I thought helped us, aren't willing to speak to me. And here I'm wandering the streets of New York trying to find someone, because the police have removed everything, my ID, my phone numbers. I didn't know the woman with whom we were staying, her location, her phone number. I had nothing to connect with anyone. And so in the past I would just go to someone, help, can you help me find a way? In another country I long ago visited, I would say, can you help me find, and they would say, derecha, and I'd continue going, and but they cared enough to speak to me, and so I felt like scum, and I began to think, this must be what it likes to be homeless, it's like to be. And I also, as I walked, could see the humor in it all. It was a game that was played. We're going to keep the streets of Chicago clean here. You are not going to mess up with our town. And it was a game, and I thought it was kind of funny. And I was walking around, and I had a hospital gown by now. I was drenched, and they'd given me some things. They gave me a hospital sheet and a hospital, I forget what they're called.
A smock or something? Or?
I thought it was one of those smocks, but it was scrubs. Mm. So they gave me scrubs to wear. But they were ordering me out of I had made a mistake and stepped into the men's bathroom and was changing my clothes there. And they were very angry and shouting at me, "Why are you in here? Get out, get out." And so loud and so many times. There were 2 policemen, 2 or 3 of the hospital staff, and then other people from the hospital there. The hospital guards were there. All these people shouting at me, and I had no time to answer that, and I couldn't. That was part of the laughter. That was funny, and it took me a while. I felt sad for a while, and then after that, I just felt so mortified. And then I realized that this was indeed funny, and I turned to the people who were shouting at me and said, "Would you shout like that if it was you making the mistake, or your family, or even an enemy making the mistake of going into the wrong? I mean, come on." And so I spoke, and then they turned their heads and looked at each other and said, well, they would give me hospital scrubs. They figured that out. And I thought, this is kind of an example of what occupiers can do. When we get ostracized, or any people, anyone who's put down, and your weaknesses, where the weaknesses are turned on us, what's the point of caving into that? Because it really is kind of funny. We were all just like a blade of grass or a tree. We're in this world to grow, and if somebody doesn't like the way we're growing, I'm sorry. I made a mistake, or I even didn't. You don't like it, I'll just continue doing what I got to do. And with me, it's protest when I feel it's wrong.
How did that situation resolve itself? You were walking around and wanted some help. Did you find some help?
I wandered from, the hospital told me I have epilepsy, and without my medicine, which the police also had, I would have a seizure, so I had to get the medicine. Had no money, so the hospital said, well, we can't help you, but we can direct you to a pharmacy 2 blocks down the street is a Walgreens. I happen to have this unnamed corporation for my medical needs, and so they wired back to Portland, who sent my prescription there to the Walgreens in Chicago, and so without paying a cent, I got my prescription.
Common sense prevailed. Look at that.
Well, and then I was and then how do you get the pills down? So I had no water. They didn't have a fountain. They said, well, I should have water, something to push because they're large and again. So they gave me no water, but there was a woman in the store who offered me to buy me a bottle of water. So she did. Very sophisticated woman. I said, they're stuck in my throat, I need to push them down. And she said, well, I bought you a bottle of water, and I am not going to buy you anything more. And I laughed at myself, and I said, well, what can I do here? I think I'll ask the attendant at the desk, the man there, I need something to push them down. And he said, well, I can't help you. And I said, well, I think what I should do, I'm trying to figure out what I will do, I think I will take a piece of candy here, a small piece of candy, and you won't sell it to me? Right, you have no money, I'm not selling you. So I said, well, what I'm going to do is take a piece of candy, and you will see me steal this piece of candy, and I'm going to walk out the door. Now, of course, I don't normally steal a piece of candy, but he said, no, he won't, and took it back. And I picked up another piece, and I said, I'm going to walk out the door with a piece of candy. The security guard is there. He will stop me if I'm not going to steal his piece of candy. And I got to the security guard, and I said, I'm stealing this piece of candy. I'm going to push my pill down. And He said, no, you're not. Took the candy. And so I went on through Chicago with situations coming up. And finally, after, it was about 4 o'clock in the morning, I figured. I walked all night, and I found the markets were starting to open, the little Saturday market kind of places, and they were putting out free samples. So I had a few free samples and felt a little bit healthier. The pill log had dissolved, I'm sure. But anyway, so, and then someone gave me soup, someone offered me bread. They said, you look hungry. And I walked all the next day in my hospital scrubs, and the whole thing was just so funny. You know, you walk a few blocks and you laugh. I was carrying there's a picture that shows me with that, I think. Shows me with my hospital walker, and I didn't know how to use the kind with no wheels, so I kept trying to pick it up, but it was heavy enough, and I just couldn't pick it up for very long, so I'd set it down. And
you finally, I'm sure you finally found somebody that helped you get back to Portland.
You know, I finally found a person. I didn't wait till you finished talking. I finally found a policewoman who would answer and direct me back to other occupiers. And I knew we were going to be marching past President Obama's headquarters the next day, and or that morning, and his election headquarters. And so I knew that was one place, and that we were going to go on and up another street. I knew a couple of places we'd be. So I told the policewoman that, and she directed me. And she went with me a few blocks. She got me from one train to the next, and then told me where to catch the bus from there. And so gradually I got to the rest of the marchers, and by then, you know, I'm so tired, like everybody else. I'm ready to rest. So that picture showing me trying to rest. But I remember being surrounded almost all the time by police, and wondered, why? It's a peaceful protest, you know. Why? I asked that question many times. Isn't this country all about peaceful protest? Why are we so concerned that crowd control is the big deal?
Very good question. It's made me go get a camera and go out and try to ask that question. It has, yeah. And I see lots of peaceful veterans standing around talking about what they've been through, and they want peace. Why do we need all these police staring at them? They're talking about peace, you know.
Again and again I ran into veterans who would, in the march, and as I mentioned, the fellow who gave me the bracelet, all he wanted was peace too. He didn't want to fight. He didn't want to protest. He just wanted things better. And he was so injured, so wounded, and had been cared for by the Veterans Administration, not to his satisfaction, but he was helped, and he was better. And he gave us credit for trying. And we have to give each other a lot of credit in both, not both sides, on all sides, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Well, do you have anything else that's important you want to get out and tell the people about, or like we've covered a lot?
We have these resist shirts, among other. This one in Spanish. I put this little rose on here for my garden. There's one sewn in a number of photographs or shirt emblems I see. My feeling is that the fist reminds me of war and harm, and it does remind me of be strong. My little great-granddaughter said to me, "Grandma, what's wrong with be strong?" Because I was saying that isn't enough. And I said, because strength is from inside. And she said, but great-grandma, it's from inside and outside too. So we have to listen to each other and learn from one another. So inside and outside. So I put the rose and where the wreath is.
And the rose is from your garden.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, good. Well, I've learned a lot and I appreciate you sharing. And I think we've covered a lot. I think it's going to be good. So, anything else, Nan, do you think? We can always do a second interview sometime as you think of something that comes along. Go, I really would like to tell more of my story, and feel free to.
Many things come up.
Okay.
I would say to people to, if they want to explore any of the things I may have forgotten, KBOO FM /Occupy Portland is one place to get the radio show where I spoke the same night that I came back, and I really would like others to hear me tell the story. And yes, it will be, again, there'll be other chances, and I'll remember some things I forgot. But I might have forgotten exactly how something was, like hospital gown or scrubs, for example. But we change so much, people change, and my perspective of the fist, it was just great to make freedom important to us all, to make us think. And it's great to think about making changes, and I think it's great to think about ways we do things, and so the rose.
Peace is the
Books.
answer.
Read. I have a number of books. Paul Cienfuegos has a number of books. Paul Cienfuegos, 100 Fires. That's one way to have a chance to explore thinking that's not necessarily what we might have seen in the past. Reading Thomas Friedman's so many books. He's the person who wrote about the world being flat and flatter, and many more.
Of course,
Beirut to Lebanon, he wrote.
Friedman
Excellent.
did?
Yeah.
Now, isn't he kind of a right-wing person? In that.
I just read his material. I just read everything I can.
Uh-huh.
And if it's right-wing, I just take what I think is true.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter to me right or left-wing, or doesn't matter.
I think that book, The World is Flat, wasn't he talking about, taking corporations overseas and how great that would be to take jobs, which seems to be in reverse now when you read that and look at that. I read part of that book, and it seemed like he was pushing for, yes, we need to move in this direction. And you say by reading that stuff to get a better perspective?
Read everything.
Uh-huh.
And what I read, what I gleaned from that was new to me. We're really connected. And what I hear Thomas Friedman saying in one of his books is that you can't shut down Trojan nuclear plant without, number one, people losing their jobs. It is shut down now, and we worked hard at that. Lloyd Marbett was one of the people that helped us a lot. Norman Solomon is another person. He's a writer that I haven't read any of his things lately, but he's got a book out, and I can tell you he wouldn't speak anything but truth. At any rate, what I gleaned from reading was that we're so connected that there's no way that we're not going to impact the rest of the world with something we do. The nuts and bolts that we stop manufacturing because of our protests about the materials they're using or the unfair conditions, the people, the corporation who's in charge of that just goes to another country where they can abuse more people and use the cadmium or the plutonium, whatever they're using, that is more harmful, has the longer, longer, not shelf life, I want to say shelf life, half-life, the half-lives of things. There's so much to learn that I couldn't possibly, I feel very, very ignorant, and I'm just beginning to read. I can tell you one thing about my life that I've watched corporations and the government. Corporations influence our government personally, I believe, to the point that the government can be ineffectual. Just an occasional, very brave elected person steps forward and is quite often smashed. And again, I don't think it's an individual thing. I think it's we, the people. We have to support people that are doing the right thing. But at any rate, I started to say, in my own lifetime, my father had dreams. He wanted a family corporation. We were a large family, and he thought if all of us saved $10 a month, we could have savings that we could never do on our own and withdraw that. But already in 1957, the corporation opportunity for my family, the door closed. They were not able to do that anymore in the same lucrative way that we might have done. We found another way. We went from slow buck to relative investment. Changed our name and changed the way we did something and saved a little bit, but we never. When my father died, we each had $100, and it would have been considerably more. But at any rate, that was one little method. One of the things that's happened to me just lately, I find unbelievable, that ophthalmologists explained that the eye surgery I needed could be done two ways. The one I really need was with a particular lens that cost more, but the surgery was identical. And that surgery was with a lens that took care of astigmatism and cataracts. And the astigmatism part was not done because it was $1,100 more. And he said I didn't need it when I went back, but I was really encouraged to have that. And that was a corporate thing. It was the insurance thing. At any rate, so it's wrong. I had $1,100 actually saved with me at the time. They refused. A guy had said, I'm going to fight this. And I think they thought I meant with my fists up. I just meant I'm going to protest. Peaceful protest.
Did you get that surgery that you wanted?
The one I did not. It's I've been blind since that time because I can't see well. The police have my eyeglasses in Chicago that I was using, and they were already. When you have that surgery, your prescription changes.
Are they supposed to release your stuff? Are you going to get that mailed back, or
The
is that like almost
Lawyers Guild
hopeless?
in Chicago told me that there wasn't really a very good chance that I would get them back. The lawyer that won the case when I was run over by a truck in Portland, who's very skilled, told me that police cases are very, very difficult. And it tells me a lot, because this is the same lawyer that helped us receive only a misdemeanor rather than a felony in the 1970s when we breached the wall at Trojan Decommissioning Alliance. Trojan Decommissioning Alliance was the title we gave ourselves. And he just showed us how we built a ladder out of pallets to go over the fence. By the way, one of the things about Occupy I like so well is there's very, very little money that we spent. There's some discussion now. Nonprofit is one of the discussions, and some of the people in Occupy, I happen to be one of them, feel that money is really a big mistake. It's one of the things that hurts our country, and I think it's hurt us through the centuries. They have a tendency to get greedy, and I suppose that's what's happened with a lot of the 1%. I want to hear the voices of those. I don't watch television anymore, and maybe that's part of why, but I want to hear the voices of those in the multi-million bracket who were saying share the wealth a few years back.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure they're out there. I'm waiting to hear now.
Yeah, we might be waiting a while. I don't know. No, there are a few voices like that are out there, but I don't watch TV either, too. So
there's a reason for everything. I always wonder what the reasons are. Mm-hmm. What prompted one person to do or say another? What another?
Yep. Well, I feel good there, Nan. We've had a good conversation, and I'm going to wrap it up. Good with you?
Yeah, thanks for all this time.
Okay.
The story about that, I think I told it to you.
The which
Can't
one?
remember. This is Nemo, the guy that drew the wagon. That's his signature. Huh. And he's an amazing person, amazing artist. And he was the first person from Occupy I got acquainted with his signature.
Uh-huh.
But at any rate, he drew this. So I don't know which sign you like. Nemo drawing of my name. He drew that Christmas Eve, the first day he stayed here, visiting me, one of the homeless people there. So homeless people come up with darn good art.
Now, is your name in there? Do you
yeah, that is my name. That's how he speaks in symbols.
Oh.
That's my name.
Wow.
He just finished something for the